Hi everyone,
Hello.
and welcome to this introduction to Meridian Yoga. It's all different for me today because I'm not in the Shiatsu Center. Kat is in the Shiatsu Center. She's presenting, and I'm here. This is my own yoga room at home. So it's all changed for me. And look, we've got lots of familiar people in the chat. Please say hi in the chat. Yeah, I'm just so excited, actually. We've been planning this for so long, Kat, and I'm really looking forward to this evening and the 5-week course afterwards.
Yeah, me too. I can't believe it's already time to do the intro and get ready for the rest of the 5 webinars as well.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so we are, Meridian Yoga. It's just an hour webinar. We're going to give you an introduction, or Kat's going to give you an introduction. I'm going to be in the class. Really hope you enjoy it. We've got a program here. So I'm going to introduce Kat first of all, so you can find out a little bit about her. You're probably familiar with her. She's been on the chats before. She's done lots of work for New Energy Work over the last few years. And if we're going to find out a little bit more about her, then she's going to introduce us to the Scaravelli Yoga method. And I've got my book here, right here, my Scaravelli Yoga book here.
Oh, snap!
Yeah. I'm halfway through it, Kat. I haven't quite finished it yet.
You know, it's great. Even if you don't read it cover to cover, just have a little flick through, dip in and out of it.
It's very much like that, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll show you guys it later properly.
Yeah. And we're going to link the Scaravelli Yoga to Masanagas, and then we're going to do some practical. About 1:30, we're going to be doing some practical. Really looking forward to that. I've got my yoga mat set up over here, and then Q&A, and then we're going to give you a bit of information about the 5-week course, which starts in a couple of weeks' time, that we've been preparing for you. Really excited about that. So yeah, here we go. Hi to everyone in the chat, and we've got Shakura actually doing the chat. Monitoring today, so if you've got any questions or you've got any problems, pop it in the chat and she'll look after you. Okay, Kat Westwood.
Isn't it funny looking at yourself?
Yeah. There we are. You're actually an international dancer. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah.
Where did you study dance?
Oh, I studied in Laban, which used to be called Laban, and now it's called Trinity Laban Music and Dance Conservatoire. It's in London, and I graduated in 2008.
Right.
So lots of different contemporary dance, and before that I did like years of ballet training.
Did you? Wow.
Yeah, for a long time, 21 years of ballet.
Wow. Okay.
I don't seem old enough, but I did cram that 21 years in. Yeah. And after I graduated at Laban, I met a guy called Oguri, a Japanese guy. And a friend of mine said, do you know what, Kat? He's doing a workshop. It's on a farm in the middle of Wales. Why don't you come along? I think you really like his dance workshop. So I went for a whole week to this farm in the middle of Wales.
Yeah.
And I learned a technique called body weather laboratory, which stems from Buto, which is Japanese contemporary dance.
Right.
And then after I did that workshop, he said, you know what, Kat, I like your style. I have a scholarship, which he doesn't do anymore, which is kind of sad. But I was the last year for international scholarships, and I went. What a shame. He lives in Los Angeles.
Oh.
I had to go to LA and train with him for 3 months. And I've been back, I mean, obviously not during COVID, but plenty of times to do training and also make pieces. And we've performed all over New York, Portland, LA, where else have we been? Dublin, London.
Wow.
Everywhere.
That's amazing. And so then, despite this international dance career, you decided to, you didn't have quite enough to do, so you decided to do some shiatsu, training shiatsu.
Yeah. Yeah. I always wanted something that complemented my dance practice.
Yeah.
Little did I know how amazing shiatsu is at the time. Right. I'd heard about it from my colleague, my colleague's mum is Celia Little.
Oh, yes, of course, yeah.
I saw Celia when I was 18. I was in her garden and she was doing qigong, and I was, what the hell is your mum doing? And now I get it, you know.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah. So I did that, and actually a lot of the Japanese contemporary dance, so the body weather laboratory, fit and resonate so well with shiatsu. Like the makoho, there's a technique called manipulations in body weather laboratory, and they're so similar.
Right, wow, right.
Really similar, yeah.
So, and then, because you didn't have enough to do the international dancing teacher training, you then went on to do Meridian yoga teacher training.
Yeah, well, because I studied at the Brighton branch of Shiatsu College, I met the lovely Annie Cryer, because she's in Hastings, and she comes to Brighton, and she taught me at the Brighton College, and that's where I got to know her. And once I'd just finished my Shiatsu training in the July, was I think 2016. Before I graduated in December, she got me on her course to do Meridian yoga teacher training.
Wow. Okay, great. And that's how you got to be doing this.
That's how I got here. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, we're very pleased to have you in Norwich, by the way. Kat's moved to Norwich, very sensible idea. And you've been an invaluable part of the team ever since she turned up at the Shiatsu Centre asking if there was any work for her.
Yeah, I did.
And you've never stopped since you've walked through the door, have you?
No, I haven't. From cleaning to video camera.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, just about do everything. Okay, great. So that's Kat Westwood, everyone. And what we want to do is we thought we'd run some polls, didn't we, Kat, just to find out what your background is in yoga. So we're going to run the first poll. Have you ever practiced any style of yoga? So let's see.
Yeah, there's so many.
Wow, here we go.
Amazing.
Look at that. We've got 90%. 90%. Wow. Pretty much 90%. So there you go. There we are.
Even completely fine that you've never done yoga.
Absolutely.
Either.
This is going to be your first experience. You better make a really good job of it, haven't we, Kat?
Oh gosh, yeah, no pressure.
No pressure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And the other thing we wanted to know is, have you heard of the Scaravelli approach to yoga? So I'm going to run that poll now. Have you heard of it? Not quite so many people have heard of it. I had until you introduced it to me. I'd heard Annie talking about it but I'd never read the book. I never really understood what it was about.
Yeah. Well, do you know, even though if people haven't done yoga before, this is what I love about the word. If I take it to its black and white meaning, yoga simply means to yoke. You're yoking your body and your mind.
Right.
So basically it's a meditative practice. So maybe you have done yoga, but you haven't necessarily done a yoga pose. But it's about yoking, bringing together the mind and the body so they're not separate.
Okay, so there we are. So let's just find out, those of you who have actually practiced yoga, let's find out if you've ever actually practiced the Scaravelli approach. That's a bit different from a bit of hearing about it. These are obviously the we're getting everyone voting in. So obviously those of you who've never done yoga wouldn't have done it unless you, like Kat says, done it without knowing.
Yeah.
Okay, look, and here we are. Look, we've got much fewer. So we've got a very big audience, Kat, the Scaravelli approach. So that's really exciting. And in fact, just reading this book, I have to say, I've been practicing yoga since I was about 16, 17. And just reading this book in the last week or something, I think it's really affected my practice. It's really made me think about what I'm doing when I'm actually doing the yoga. And I think that's really important when we start giving yoga poses or exercises to clients as recommendations, because it's the internal energetics that's so important, rather than just the external. Wouldn't you say that's true?
Yeah, and that's what excites me about this approach to yoga, because I think when I was training in dance, we did yoga classes as well, and I had a resistance to it because I just saw these, I don't know, it turned into some, love yummy mummies, but yummy mummy, cool leggings, skinny frappuccino. I'm like, I'm not really into that.
No.
I was like, hang on a minute, that's not what yoga's about. You know, yes, you can wear the very cool leggings, why not? But that's not solely what it's about. So yeah, being mindful and getting really in touch and being more embodied in your practice.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's what we're going to be exploring in the practical session in just a few, well, in about 10 or 15, 20 minutes time. But we're just going to go through the principles, and maybe we can do some little seated exercises. I'm sitting down in my studio, I'm sitting on a chair. Maybe we can go through the principles. And we've got undoing the doing.
Yes.
The breath. The spine. And in fact, her book is called Awakening the Spine, isn't it?
Yeah.
Gravity and being like a tree.
Yeah.
So let's
her
go on.
3 main principles are breathe, the breath, the spine, and gravity.
Right.
I've added the other 2 because in her approach I find these 2 really quite useful as well. So I've made it 5 instead of 3.
Yeah, but they do. You have to be very close to the book and her writings, though, because undoing the doing is right at the beginning of the book, isn't it? It's the whole. It's pretty much what you were talking about. Yoga can become so easily in the West very goal orientated, very visual, very external, and so it's that kind of Zen approach, which we'll talk about later, that's so central to her approach. Okay, Kat. So let's go. We're just going to go through these 5 principles, and then we'll get on to doing some actual practice on the mat. So let's go. So what's undoing the doing all about?
Well, it's just like it says on the tin, Cliff.
Okay.
Undoing the doing. So it's more about being with yourself at the present moment. So one day you might feel totally flexible and feeling really good in your body, and another day you might feel stiff and a little bit grumpy, and that's okay. And you work with what's present in your body, what's there, which kind of links nicely with, with shiatsu. So if you're a shiatsu practitioner and a client comes to you, you work with your client, you work with what's presented to you that day, that moment. And it's the same with yourself. That's how I see undoing the doing. Also about listening to your body. So definitely no pulling, no pushing, no forcing. There's no aim to Scaravelli's pose. So if she's doing an asana, like I guess a warrior pose, she's not aiming to get the widest stance and the arms super wide, but by listening to the body and with all the other principles as well, you can achieve a more, I guess it's like a more holistic, wholesome position. And then in time, your practice grows and your body changes. And maybe you this is the thing, we never make the pose. It's constantly learning. But yes, undoing a doing, because maybe there's nothing to do.
Yeah, it's more like being, isn't it? It's a kind of Zen thing.
Yes.
And that has definitely influenced me the last couple of weeks when I've been doing my yoga practice, because that's one of the things I've done with the whole coronavirus thing. I've been doing really regular yoga and meditation practice ever since it all started, last year. And it's something I did a lot of back when I was a teenager. I was kind of addicted to yoga, actually. I used to do it for hours when I was about 16, 17. And then I dropped it, and I've only just really picked it up as a consistent practice in the last year. So it's really fascinating, and it's really affected me. I just thought, wait a minute, what am I doing? Where is the motivation coming from for doing this stretch or this position? So,
yeah.
Okay, what about the breath? She does go about riding the wave of the breath, doesn't she?
Yeah, that's it. Riding the wave of the breath. So with the movement, it's always with the breath. So we're not moving the arms without breathing. It's about connecting to the breath, and then perhaps like on an out breath, and the arms can gently join in.
It's quite close to Qigong in a way then, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And also, yeah, riding the wave of the breath, I find it going back to undoing the doing. You're less likely to pull or force or, push too much in the asana or the sequence that you're doing. Yeah. And we really need to breathe.
We do.
Yeah. So it's very important. And I think keeping a natural breath is very good too. And I mean, I always see where my breath is when I come to my practice. But, perhaps one day I'm really stressed and it's sitting high, and, that's okay. I'm just going to work with my super shallow breath today, or another day it might be right down in my belly.
Right.
But it's, I think, always listening to the body, including your breath. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, and so it's very close to Qigong. Again, a lot of parallels with Shiatsu practice as well, isn't it? With the breathing and everything.
Yeah.
Okay, what about the spine? She's very big on the spine, isn't she? As we mentioned, Awakening the Spine is the name of the book. She goes on a lot about that. So what's your take on that?
Well, kind of like it says on the points here. So the movement and the alignment of the spine. So it's constantly shifting, rearranging, focusing on what's going on in your body. Also using the breath to make space in your spine. So all these things on the principles really nicely feed into one another.
Right.
So you have a fuller practice. And also the next one will be with gravity, but allowing the spine to kind of give into gravity, not to collapse.
Yeah.
But the fact that you can use gravity to have a lot less effort in your body.
Brilliant. Is there anything we can do just sitting down for 1 minute just to experience that, do you think? Can you think of something?
Yeah. So, well, I'll just stand up and explain one little thing that she talks about in her book. So, mainly with our wonderful modern world, I did some geeky little research on how people have walked throughout the centuries. So a lot of people, we get quite heady thinking about lots of things and we're rushing about trying to get things done. The modern human tends to walk, from the head. I'm in a rush. Oh, I have to be going somewhere. Everything's a bit held and you're a bit forward in your body. So she always talks about coming back to your body and having your spine and your center. That's where you stand, and then you can go places and move from having your spine in the center. So rather than being ahead of yourself, you come back into your body. There's one little geeky thing I found that actually the way we walk has changed hugely. So the medieval period, because we had softer shoes, we used to have a shorter stepping stance, and it was usually toes first. So you felt the floor before you put weight on your feet. So a lot of medieval people would walk a lot more from the feet and probably a lot more in their spines as well. So it's about coming back to the spine and finding your body rather than being in front of it. But we can do that sitting, actually. Let's get this little bolster. So I've got this bolster here. So even sitting cross-legged, or maybe I'll turn sideways so you can see, or sitting on a chair or anything like that. I don't know. Long day, too much work on the computer, I kind of get hunchy, shoulders are round, maybe the neck gets a bit stuck because, you know, everything here's collapsed. So what we can do about the spine is actually, where does it start? It's the tailbone right down here. So maybe thinking about the tailbone drawing down, kind of like spiraling down to the ground. And the same with the sitting bones, allowing the sitting bones. So on a chair, you can do the same, finding the sitting bones. And from there, just allowing the breath to come into the belly. And as you root more with your sitting bones and tailbone downwards, as you breathe out, you can just gently let the rest of the spine and you allow some swaying or movement to come in. Don't worry if you look silly, it's all part of the process. So it's kind of allowing the ribs to move from side to side as well. So as we're breathing down into the belly and spiraling the pelvis downwards, like tree roots, which we'll come to in the next few slides. And then if we just take a few rolls with the shoulders, forward and down. So as the shoulders come down, imagine the shoulder blades are melting down the ribs at the back. You can breathe in and then let the shoulder blades melt down the back. Breathing out and melting down. And the last one, we can just stay here. Really no effort at all. And the head is just it's an extension of the spine as the last vertebrae comes in around the ear level in the center of the skull, and it's gently kind of perched on the top of the spine. So maybe we can just take the head from side to side gently. Maybe just seeing where your breath is, the spine's kind of super easy and lengthening up towards the sky. So much easier to sit now, right?
Yeah, I get that completely. My head's moving a different way completely.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I have a wonderful tendency to sit and text like this. Terrible. Yeah, that's it. So that's kind of connecting with the spine, you know, and yeah, Vanda Scaravelli talks a lot in her book about, the spine, the fact that we're always kind of ahead of ourselves. We need to come back.
And of course, that links really well with Zen Shiatsu and Pauline Sasaki's Shiatsu methods as well, doesn't it? It's so similar to Qigong as well. That's the interesting thing. It's so internal. Okay, what about gravity? There she is, looking at someone doing...
Yeah, she's great. I mean, Vanda was born, I think, in the I could be wrong, 08, something like that, in Italy. And in this picture, so all these pictures in the book of her and online, she's kind of mid-80s. Wow. Yeah, but she came to yoga late. Well, what's late? I don't know. She came to it a bit later on in her life, kind of middle of the life, late 40s, almost 50. Yeah. But maybe I can talk about her before we go to the gravity. Sure, yeah. She had quite a musical and arty kind of family background, and every year she'd rent a chalet in Switzerland, and I think so in her mid to late 40s she would go every year to her chalet in Switzerland and invite Yehudi Menuhin. There was another guy, and this one year Yehudi Menuhin, that really famous violin player, said, I've got this guy I think would be great if he could come too. And it was, who else? Iyengar, the yoga teacher. So she used a lot of his practice because she learned from him in her chalet in Switzerland, which sounds wonderful. Would have loved to be there. And she really learned loads from that. And that's where she then developed her idea and approach to yoga. Yeah.
So yeah, created there.
I know, right? It was
Krishnamurti was there as well. It was a very spiritual sort of place.
That's it. That's the one I was trying to think of. Thank you. Yeah. So going back to gravity, it's actually around us. We have it on this planet, and she said, use it in your practice. You know, when you throw a ball to get it really flying high, you go down to come up. You throw the ball down before it can really ascend into the sky. And you can do the same with your practice, which is linking everything else so far, the spine, the breath, undoing the doing, using gravity. So it's the same. We can use gravity, and the next one links in nicely to it, about rooting down into the ground, moving the legs downwards so everything else can have an upward, effortless feeling.
And that's where the tree comes in, isn't it? Being like a tree, I love it.
Yeah.
She says a lot in her book about that, doesn't she? This idea of, it's heaven and earth, isn't it? It's like yin and yang, heaven and earth.
Exactly. Yeah, very much. And I love that when I did my shiatsu training and then went and trained with Annie down in Hastings, I was like, oh, it makes so much sense. It's great. Yeah. But yes, so the two-way connection, just like when we do in our shiatsu practice, some energy exercises. So connecting to the earth and the heavens. So she talks about rooting down like a tree through the feet, through the legs, and it starts from the waist. So if we were a tree, in this picture that we have on the slide, where the earth meets the tree and the roots go down, this is kind of waist, our waistline, or I guess kind of around lumbar 4. And then the rest of the tree, the trunk and the branches, is the rest of our body. So waist or lumbar 4 upwards. Yeah. And yes, she talks specifically about kind of round lumbar 4. I think,
she has it quite low, because we were talking about that when we were doing it's quite low. Yeah. It's more or less, I think, in line with the dantian, where the dantian is in the front of the body. It's the lower part of the lumbar. Yes. That's where she really concentrates on. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. So she always talks about creating more space in the body.
Yeah.
Here. So the more this can go downwards, the more this can open. And this part's so vital, I guess, in our movement. Yeah. Actually, it's very funny. So when I first trained with a guru in America, did lots of shows with him and like touring around places. Then for 5 years I didn't see him. I did my shiatsu training and my yoga training, and then a couple of years ago I went and worked with him again, and he looked at me and he went, Kat, I think you've grown. You're a lot taller. And I was like, yeah, I have a few centimeters.
Wow.
I think about 2.5. But because I think basically I'm still working on it, because sometimes it gets compressed. But basically my spine's
there we go.
A little bit longer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, great. So that's the 5 principles, and we got another poll for you. We're just going to see whether you practice the Zen Shiatsu style. Let's see, find out if you practice the Zen Shiatsu style. And the answers are yes, no, or not sure. There's quite a few people are not sure. Maybe they've reached a completely Zen state where they're beyond all category or something. All right, but most of us are, most of the group are Zen Shiatsu people.
Mm.
Not that it really matters, but we just wondered, just out of interest. And
Yeah.
the next thing, I think, is just talking a little bit about the Masnaga connection. So I guess we've already covered pretty much all of it already, isn't it, really? It's those connections between the non-doing, moving from the hara, grounding. And I think it's really interesting because when you read that book, Meridian Exercises, that Masnaga wrote after Zen Shiatsu, a lot of the principles in there match exactly Scaravelli yoga. So
That's it. And that's the joy of Meridian yoga, because it's not a style of yoga. It's simply a yogic practice meeting Zen Shiatsu and the Meridian systems together. And that's what Meridian yoga is.
Brilliant. And so now it's time for practical. So we're going to, well, Kat's actually developed a kind of practical thing for us to do. We're going to work on the sun salutation, which is a yoga sequence. And just going to ask you, first of all, win a poll again. Have you ever done the sun salutation sequence? I guess probably most of you, if you've done yoga before, probably did. It's a very popular sequence. Personally, I do it every morning. It's part of my basic routine that I do. But we've got 10% who've never done it, so it's the first time, Kat. So how about that?
Yeah. And sun salutations is the kind of usual sequence that you'd probably find in a yoga class.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to use a very simple form. You can add to it, make it more complicated with different asanas. I just wanted a very simple sun salutation. You really don't worry about getting it or not, because it's the fact that we're going to tap into the essence and the energetics of Meridian Shiatsu, and also some visualizations to help us feel a little more embodied in the movement. So, really don't worry if you haven't done it.
So what we're going to do is go through it 4 times. We're going to go over the basic movement. If you've not done it before, you want to revise it. And then Kat will demonstrate the basic Scaravelli principles as we're doing that. And then we're going to just give you a little taste of what we've got in store for you in the 5-week Meridian yoga course that we've developed, or we're developing, which is going to start in 2 weeks' time. And we're just going to do a little taste of how you can apply that sequence to different elements. And we just picked the water and the earth, didn't we, for this little practical?
Yeah, you can do it with all sorts.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm actually going to show you now just a corner of my own yoga room, because it's I know how difficult it is when you're at home, because you don't have all the lights and everything.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to...
Super. So whilst Cliff changed his camera, I noticed in the chat, so I'll show you Vanda's book, Vanda Scaravelli, Awakening the Spine. This is the 2nd edition. The first one was her notes and her book, which was really, really good. But this one, her daughter got published because she found, when Vanda died, she found more of her notes. So her daughter had this book, this edition.
Okay, I'm going to hand over to you, Kat, now, and I'm going to just keep my camera off unless I need some help, and then I'll put it on again.
Yeah, that's great. So we're just going to come to standing. You don't have to have loads of room. Completely fine. Just going to come up to standing. And you don't have to be barefoot either. I enjoy yoga with socks as long as it's not too slippy. That's the main thing, because we want to really connect with the feet on the ground. So what I'll do is I'll just show the very simple sun salutation once, so you can see what you're going to do. And I've got a chair which I want to show modifications. So if there's something that's a bit difficult, or you want to do something with some support, you can do that as well. And then we can have a go all together. So the first time round that we're going to do it, we're just going to think about the movement and connecting with the feet and how we're feeling. And then later we're going to come to Vanda's approach, and maybe hopefully we can feel a difference. So I'll just show you first. So I'm going to come to Tadasana, which is our mountain pose. A lot of people do it with feet together. I quite like feet in parallel, and my palms are facing out. I'm going to soften my knees, allow my arms to come up to the sky, and I've got them, hopefully you can see, in prayer position, gently looking up to the hands, and I'm going to dive forward, soften the knees, come into Uttanasana. I've still got my knees soft here. I haven't lengthened the legs. And I'm going to take a breath in and gently come up halfway. So it's kind of like a ripple through the spine and back down again. And then from here, I'm going to walk my hands out and then my feet and allow the sitting bones to come to a downward dog. Again, here you can have your knees bent, but just like we did sitting, allow the shoulder blades to melt down the ribs at the back, and the hands can really spread in the ground and the feet. And we can walk the feet out here. That's lovely. And then from here, we're going to allow the sitting bones to roll us through the spine. I'm going to move my hands into a plank for a second, allowing the knees to come to the floor and gently dropping the pelvis down to the ground. And then drawing the sitting bones back to a child's pose. And then from here again, the sitting bones move us, tucking the toes under. We're going to come back to downward dog, having the knees soft and the shoulders sliding down the ribs, and then gently walking back to Uttanasana, softening the legs, uncurling, the arms open sideways, up into their position at the top and drawing down to the heart. I hope you got that. I'm just going to get a chair and show you that you can do things using a chair. So I'll just go through this fairly quickly. I know you all know your bodies and you know what you can and can't do, what feels comfortable and what feels really good. So I know you can make the right choice for yourself. So same beginning, softening the knees, allowing the arms to scoop up into prayer position. Then we can sweep down. Hopefully I've got this in the right place. So I'm going to step forward. So Uttanasana, you can drop down onto your forearms here and allow the head and neck to relax. And then coming up through the breath, and then coming to an upward facing dog. You can use this, imagining the same kind of feeling with the sitting bones, and the feet are still connected in the floor. Shoulders are still sliding down the ribs. And then if that's comfortable, I don't know how you feel about allowing the pelvis to just gently draw forward. Lovely. Child's pose is obviously a bit difficult using a chair, but then from here we can just come back, unroll and come back up to standing. So if you do need a chair, please use it. Anyway, I'm going to move it out of the way for now. Great. So let's do it all together. Maybe you're already trying it out. So let's come up to standing, and we'll just do it once together to see how the movement feels all together. So feet kind of parallel, hip width apart. And Annie Cryer taught me this lovely thing to do. Imagine you're putting your hands in your jean pockets at the back. So it's just allowing the pelvis to gently kind of sit on the top of the femur bones on the legs. So we're not tilting or tucking, just gently drawing the sitting bones down. Lovely. And the palms gently facing out. We're just going to breathe in. Gently looking up to the hands, breathing out, scooping all the way down to Uttanasana. Breathing in, allowing that wave through the spine, breathing out. Then we're going to walk into a downward dog, either walking the hands or the feet. Allow the shoulder blades to melt down the ribs at the back, pressing the feet in the ground. Lovely. And then we're going to in-breath. And then on the out-breath, we want to roll the pelvis through the spine into a slight plank for a second. Allow the knees to drop to the floor. Breathing in as we breathe out. Gently drop the pelvis forward. Shoulder blades still. We still want the shoulders nice and melting down the ribs. And then tailbone back into downward dog. Really rearrange your legs if you need to. Take a breath here. Then on the next out breath, it's like the sitting bones navigate or instigate is the word I'm looking for. The pelvis to move forward and then float up to the sky. Come to downward dog again. And then walking forward, you can also hop forward if that's comfortable. Back to Uttanasana. Make sure the head and neck are relaxed. Soften the knees. Uncurl and the arms come wide, up to the sky, and the hands come to the heart. So I hope that felt good. So that practice is simply going through the sun salutation, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. But how is it if we do, so all the slides that we've gone through with the principles of Van der Scaravelli, let's add this and do the sequence again. So she talked about, I've got my list here, and they come together quite nicely. So I like to start with gravity, connecting, use the gravity. So in my busy world, I might be a little bit more like that, running around the town, getting to work on time. Let's use gravity and allow the spine, which is the other principle that she wants to connect to and uses a lot in her approach, finding the spine in your body. Being like a tree, so this part of the waist, connecting down, rooting through the feet, so we can allow this space in the body to grow upwards. And we can do the same thing here, brushing the hands like they're going into the back pockets. That's great. So spreading the feet and really allowing them to root into the ground. Gravity drawing us down so we can come up, kind of like in Qigong, when we connect to earth energy, and the energy comes back to us so we can stand and feel supported. Being like a tree, so the second part of the body is growing up and outwards. We have our breath, so we can just focus on how our breath is, and that's how we can get to undoing the doing. So maybe we can try that all together once or twice. I'm sure you've kept going whilst I've been chatting. So let's do it once more together, thinking of Van der Scaravelli's principle. So just to begin, I'm just going to close my eyes, and without changing anything, just notice right now, where's your breath? Where do you feel your breath in your body? Just noticing where it is, how it is. Lovely. And then we're just going to switch to focusing on how do you feel right now. The whole body, kind of taking like a quick scan, a snapshot of how are you feeling right now. Not changing anything, just how you are right in this moment. Okay, and we can gently open our eyes again. So we're going to allow the feet to really spread. You can lift the toes and allow the heels to drop. So the legs really come out of the ankles, so we're not too far forward or too far back. They really are coming straight out from the ankles into the pelvis. Great. We've got that ease in the spine like we did sitting when we had the slides on earlier. So the breath gently, if it feels okay, into the belly. So everything else can feel free on the top. So let's try this small sun salutation Vanda approach. So we're going to breathe in, we're going to soften the knees, allowing gravity to drop and allow us to come all the way up with no effort. You can look to the ceiling if that's okay, hands in prayer. And then we're going to dive forward, allowing the spine to really move, coming into Uttanasana and allowing the head and neck to release. We're going to breathe in, allow that breath to come on a wave. We can do that again through the feet, through the legs and through the spine. So it's breathing in, rippling through the spine. Lovely. And then walking out into a downward dog. So we've got our feet still rooting in the ground. The breath is still natural. Where is it in your body right now? Shoulder blades drawing down the ribs. That's lovely. Head and neck nice and relaxed because it's right on the top of the spine. Great. And you can walk the feet out here. Lovely. And then with the next out breath, we're going to allow the pelvis, the sitting bones, the start of our spine on the tail, on an out breath to ripple through the spine, allowing the knees to drop to the floor, breathing in, and then gently using gravity, the pelvis can gently come towards the ground, sitting bones taking us back to a child's position. And how is it if we really let gravity take hold here in child's pose? Thinking of that lovely spot in the spine where we go down and up. So this child's pose is really opening this part of the spine with no effort, no forcing. So we're undoing the doing by using our breath and gravity. And on the next out breath, we can allow the sitting bones to instigate movement through the spine, tucking the toes under, connecting the feet back to the earth. And we're allowing this lovely support from the earth to send the sitting bones towards the sky. Lovely. And the shoulders are soft, spine's nice and full of breath. And then we're going to walk back into an Uttanasana, softening the knees, arm curling. Wow, so much easier. And then allowing the hands to come to prayer position. I hope you can feel a difference connecting with Vanda's approach with gravity and breath.
Absolutely, it's completely different. Completely different, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I feel taller already. Yeah.
Okay, great. So we've got about 10 minutes left. I'll just switch cameras so I get back to my normal camera.
Yeah, it took a little bit longer than I had planned.
So maybe we can just experience just one or two little taste maybe of how we can tweak the exercise for one or two of the others. Maybe just 1 point for each of the...
Yeah, so I'll stick with water and earth. And instead of, I was a little bit keen. I've got 3 points for each.
Save them for the 5-week course.
But yeah, exactly. This is a taster. So basically now we're going to come to the feeling of the element, and I'm going to choose a point and get the energetics of that. And what's it like if we add that energetics to the sun salutation we've just done with Vanda's approach, hopefully it's like even more amazing. Yeah. So the first one, water, is the fact that it's yin and yang in our bodies. Points, oh, there's too many good ones to choose. So actually, bladder 60, I like that one. In the ankle, hopefully Clifford got that right. So at the back, maybe you can see on this side a bit more. At the back of the ankle, I can never pronounce the name of the mountain. Thank you. So connecting with the mountains. I like that, and it's really good for your lower back. So I don't know, maybe we can get to a comfortable sitting position, or it's a bit cumbersome standing. So maybe we can just connect with bladder 60, just behind the ankle. It's kind of near the Achilles.
Just behind the Achilles, between the ankle bone and the Achilles tendon. Yeah.
Exactly. So we can just gently press it and activate this point here. We can do it on both ankles. And what I love about the name of this, because it is connected to mountains, the main posture the main asana in yoga is Tadasana, and it means mountain pose. So I love this connection of this bladder 60 being like mountains, and we can stand in Tadasana like a mountain. Lovely.
It's mythical. Those mountains are mythical as well. They're up in the Himalayas. It's where all the big rivers start as well. So that's another great image, isn't it? The rivers coming from the mountains.
Yes, exactly. Which is really lovely in the water element. Yeah. So we all know, I'll just read it so we can remind ourselves, the element association in Zen Shiatsu of water element is life, depth, flow, power, and purification. So we can tap into that as we do a water-themed sun salutation. And I just thought, before we do the sun salutation again, a bit of a visualization, and you can just sit or stand. You can have your eyes closed if you want. It's from Carola's book, which I think most of you would know. Really, really lovely snippet that she puts at each quote for each element. And I thought we could just listen to the visualization before using the sun salutation again. Under heaven, nothing is more soft and yielding than water. Yet for attacking the solid and strong, nothing is better. It has no equal. That's the Tao Te Ching. I love that, though, the fact that the water element is soft and yielding and can be full of power as well. So let's come back up to standing. You can use your chair or prop if you need to. So feeling this activation with the bladder 60 in the ankle, our mystical mountains. Well, how does that feel in Tadasana, in mountain pose? Well, I feel very sturdy and deeply connected to the ground. So my rivers of the spinal fluid and deep in my marrows can grow upwards to the skies. So feeling soft and yielding, but can also be strong. So let's try this again in the water element. So breathing in, softening the knees, allowing the arms to scoop up effortlessly up to the sky. Diving down into Uttanasana with those strong bladder 60s, The legs are strong and the spine can move. Breathing in, allowing the spine to ripple through like a river. And stepping back into downward dog with this lovely movement from the little toe all the way to our eyebrows. The bladder channel can really move through the spine into plank, allowing the knees to drop to the ground. And then that space in the spine, so we want to activate the center, allowing us to gently drop forward, so soft and yielding like water. And then we could be powerful and use the sitting bones to draw us back into child's pose. And you can take a breath here. It's the water element, also about resting and storing. And then again, the sitting bones, which is where the bladder channel comes through on the legs at the back, coming through, tucking the toes under again and gently drawing the pelvis up towards the sky into downward dog. That strong bladder 60 point that we've pressed can walk our feet all the way back underneath us to find our spine, softening the knees, uncurling, and coming all the way up to the sky again and drawing the hands down. So maybe something changed, or maybe you felt kind of the same as the first one that we tried. Oh, Cliff, we can't hear you. Yeah.
So you couldn't hear me groaning and twisting and banging on for. Yeah, no, I thought the activation was really interesting, really interesting. And I also thought another thing, when we bend forwards like that in the cobra, that opens the kidney channel in the front of the body, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, all in the chest. Yeah, to the kidney 27.
Okay, so the time has flown past.
I know, we haven't got to Earth, but basically it's a taster of each week that we're going to do. We're going to really go in a little bit deeper with each element for each week. Yeah,
with the 5-week course, which is coming up. It's based on the 5 elements. It starts on 25th of May, and it's the same thing. It's an hour on a Tuesday evening, and we'd love you to join. And we're going to just share a link. You can join up from the New Energy Work website, or we can just share this link, and there'll be a link when also will take you to the site when you leave this webinar. So that's the link.
Yeah, that's the other thing I do. I do take my time with
Absolutely, that's a great quality. That's really, really good.
Yeah, you can really get into it, so you can.
We'll have a whole hour for each of the elements, and we'll look at. It's going to be very practical in the sense it's going to be for our own development, but also something that I love doing is giving yoga exercises to clients as recommendations, and that's one of the big aims of the course is to do that, is to enable us to really have an approach to giving. I'll just clear this out of the way. I'm just going to clear this out of the way so I can see my screen. Yeah, I'm just going to. No, I'm going to keep it. I'm just going to look at my screen here. Yeah. Okay, so close it. Oh, I see. Yes, that's it. Yeah. Okay, so the registration is now open. You can register from the New Energy Work website, and there's also going to be a link when we send you the recording if anyone's watching the recording. And that's about it, isn't it? I think we're done.
Oh, I think there's one
question. That's just.
Yeah. Oh, how do you spell auguri? Oh, yeah. So how you spell auguri there, that's kind of the Italian for celebrating. So auguri is O-G-U-R-I. So the only difference is an O, and he specializes in body weather laboratory.
Okay, wow, body weather laboratory.
There's also another collective that we work together in, and it's called Arcane Collective. And there's a website and videos and pictures. You can see the crazy stuff we get up
Okay,
to.
everyone really loved it. Catherine Hutch says, Tantiaguri, getting lots of claps. Thank you so much. Yeah, everyone loved it. In fact, I'm going to put a heart in the chat just because I feel like a cat. I've enjoyed this hour. It's been so much fun. And I'm really looking forward to the 5 weeks. It's going to be great. Really good. Something we've wanted to do for a long time.
Thank you, everyone.
We've wanted to.
Yes.
So and that's it. That's the hour up. So goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye, and
Yep.
see you all soon.